Lovely, lovely, good afternoon. Yeah, it is Wednesday and I'm back. Just like I said that I'll be back, and when I'm back, I will be joined with some people. All right, so this is a special climate change show, and of course it is powered by ZCCN. So I'm not alone in the studio. I am joined by some a lady and a gentleman, yeah. So right now what I'm going to do, let me just turn to my left, and of course right here on my immediate left, I have Mr. Ali Kaunda. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, sir. It's an honor to be here.
Great.
Yes.
Great. All right. So maybe I can allow you just to introduce the lady and the gentleman that we have here.
Okay. So first of all, my name is Kaunda Ali, as I've been already introduced. I'm the project officer for Zambia Climate Change Network, and on my immediate left is Ms. Sharon Kandu, who is an accredited ZCCN climate ambassador and also a representative of the young digital activists for one of our projects which we are undertaking and we are introducing today. And on her left is Mr. Jonathan Carter. Yes, Mr. Jonathan Carter is also an accredited ZCCN climate ambassador, and he's also representing the community resource persons for the project that we are undertaking. And there's another gentleman who's joining us soon, who's Mr. Simon Mwamba, who's the ZCCN representative, and he's also the thematic lead for the project.
Right.
Yes.
Well said, well said. And of course, Mr. Jonathan Carter is not a stranger. Yeah, we've met on several occasions. All right, so Mr. Kaunda, maybe you can just tell us a bit about ZCCN, because some people might be thinking maybe it's something to do with mining or what. So maybe you can just give us a bit background of ZCCN.
Okay, yeah, it's actually a common area where people mistake ZCCM for ZCCN. Otherwise, ZCCN stands for Zambia Climate Change Network. Okay. So this is a network which has been in existence since 2009. So ZCCN actually exists as a national platform for civil society organizations which are into climate change issues, sustainable development, as well as natural resources management. Okay. So ZCCN actually, its main thrust is on sustainable development and climate justice. So Mr. Mwamba is actually going to expand on what ZCCN has done in the past years and what ZCCN is currently doing and what ZCCN is about to do. So I think that will be the interesting part of the conversation. Yes. Right,
that's great. Obviously, Mr. Mwamba has been thrown into the frying pan. Yeah, you've got a lot of questions for him. So the topic for this is sustaining climate advocacy in the era of COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, all right. So we need to see how these two things relate, and of course, we have Mr. Mwamba in this studio. I want to welcome you to the show.
It's a pleasure to be on the show, Mr. Presenter. I'm happy to be on this show, especially that we are discussing a very important topic, of climate change, which has affected people from all walks of life. Initially, when people are talking about climate change, people thought, but now people are realizing that
everyone is affected.
With the energy crisis, load shedding, people are able to relate to the issues of climate change. And of course, the president has also come to the fray, where at least he has been on top of the agenda talking about climate change, be it in his address to the 12th session of Parliament, as well as to the UN Assembly when he was addressing the UN on biodiversity conservation and related to the issues of biodiversity loss. So in hand, it's not new, but these are things that we need to deal with.
Right. Well said, Mr. Mwamba, right there. So we dive straight into the program. And of course, let me start with you, Mr. Simon Mwamba. Of course, can you just give us, a brief background of the Zambia Climate Change Network, ZCC, and the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance?
Well, as my colleague Ali alluded to, ZCCN has been in existence for a long time, but was officially registered in 2011. And this came after realization that there was a debate about the greenhouse gas emissions. When people hear of greenhouse gas, they think there are some greenhouses somewhere, but this is about talking about the greenhouses that we have that are actually affecting the atmospheric condition of Mother Earth, and therefore that leads to global warming. And these, among these, is carbon dioxide, there is methane, there is nitrous oxides, and others that contribute to climate change. So because of this, when that debate was starting, we also thought it's important. It was actually formed by concerned individuals and non-governmental organizations under the auspices of the Community-Based Natural Resource Management with the assistance of WWF, that's the World Wide Fund for Nature, Zambia office. And from that time, we have been moving around and have been working around that with the main aim of coordinating civil society response in terms of responding to the challenges that we have on climate change, so that we move as a team and also respond. And also, apart from just coordinating civil society, we also undertake advocacy to influence policy, because that is one of the key issues that we have. For everything that happens, we have duty bearers who are the government, but we have also rights holders who are the communities who have the rights to live in a better environment. And because of that, we also undertake advocacy to influence policy, but also engage communities and other stakeholders. So basically, in a nutshell, that's what ZCCN is all about. And then coming to the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance,
yes,
referred to as PACJA, this is a movement of movements from national to the Pan-African level, like it is said, that's Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. Therefore, we have a mother body within Africa that brings together different national platforms or coalitions.
Where's that mother body?
Justice. The headquarters in Nairobi.
Okay.
That's where the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, popularly known as PACJA, is based.
Okay.
PACJA has actually a status of observatory status with the African Union, so we are able to also sit into the African Union and represent civil society in that light. But we also engage with other regional bodies like the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, which is COMESA. And then when you look at ECOWAS in the West, so PACJA is able to work around, we have the East African Community, EAC, and all that. So PACJA brings in different national platforms to actually engage with those regional economic blocks.
Right. Well said. It looks like your organization is quite busy, and of course that is great. All right. Let me get to the far left, right there where Mr. Jonathan Nkata is. Mr. Nkata. All right, so Mr. Nkata, you as a community resource person, what are your roles in this entire climate advocacy strategies?
Okay, basically, you already mentioned the word community.
Yes.
So basically, my roles are very few, but strategic. They involve issues of mobilization, Of course, you need to mobilize people and provide information and create platforms that you can speak on to actually sell the product that we have. And this is our product is the issue of fighting climate change. And of course, as you do the mobilization, there's engagement of people and stakeholders. So my roles basically are at the level where I deal with the people within my constituency, which is probably district administrators, and since I'm working within the province of Lusaka, these people I'm able to engage with and basically discuss with them on strategies on how we can enhance responses, not just giving out information, because we need to change our culture to fit in the new culture. We need to adopt, like the way we've tried to adopt with masks and social distance in the COVID era. Then, of course, the aspect of reporting. I need to do some reporting, that's weekly reports, so that my upper structure is able to know what is going on in the field that I'm doing. Yeah. So with the reporting, it means there should be also data collection, because you cannot report without collecting data. Yeah. So basically, that's my role.
Right, interesting role there. All right, so let me turn to the lady here. We are not going to leave you out, yeah? All right, so we also want to know, how, as young people, the participation, how are you also, participating in these programs?
Okay, so as young people, we have taken several methods on which we're participating. One, and I think which is very critical, is by getting informed, because we cannot be climate adaptive if we don't even understand what we're doing. Okay. So it's by bringing ourselves on board, understanding what climate change is all about, its impacts, how we can respond, how we can come up with innovations that are climate smart. And also by forming organizations. For example, we have the Zambia Youth Climate Change Forum. This is a platform where young people are able to advocate for climate change, teach people in the communities about agricultural smart practices. We also have the Green Belt. It's an organization that recycles plastic. Okay. So we have so many young people in Zambia doing so many things just to respond to all these climate change issues.
Right. So what kind of challenges, have you found, when it comes, in this era of COVID-19?
So as I had mentioned earlier, we're talking about information as youths, but still there isn't enough information out there. Most youths haven't had that information where they're able to come up with significant innovations that can respond, for example, energy issues. How do you find alternative energy uses other than electricity? So you need to have that information, and that information can only come from key stakeholders that is advocating for such issues. And also weak links with organizations. Quite all right, we're engaged, but we don't just want engagement that is short term. We want to be part of policy making. We want to be part of policy implementation. So those are some of the challenges that we're facing as young people.
All right. I will say, let me get back to Mr. Mwamba. At least I'm going to break.
You know what, my dear brother?
Yes, please.
This man is a very interesting man. He tries to teach me Nyanja when I'm from the East. But I must acknowledge, he's better than me when speaking it.
You think so?
I haven't seen the way he does it, the little that he's introduced.
All right. So, Mr. Mwamba, let me come back to you. Maybe you can just tell us what are the interlinkages of climate change and COVID-19?
Well, to start with, it's very out there in the public. When you look at what is being referred to as the source of the epidemic that we have, it's talking of a market in Wuhan, China.
Yeah.
That is a food market where they sell live food. It's slaughtered there. It's closer to our Chiboria, where people slaughter pigs and goats and the like. So from that source of where the pandemic began from, you can see that it's about how we as humanity interact with nature and the environment. Okay. And because of that, we are in this crisis where we have a disease that we are struggling with. To that link, then when you look at climate change, what is causing climate change is basically the issue of how are we interacting with nature. And because we are negatively impacting on nature, we now have climate change. The second point that I want to refer to is the issue of the response to COVID. If you look at the response to COVID, we have seen how we have had lockdowns. And because of that, people were told no social distancing, no meetings. I think my colleague was talking about, our young lady here was talking about the issue of them not having information. For instance, at Zambia Climate Change, one of the key avenues of how we take out that information, and including other civil society organizations, have been community meetings. So because of the lockdown, you can't hold meetings. So that is just one of the interlinkages. But you'd realize that even with climate change, if the whole area was flooded, who have means of going to see the other person? You won't have.
You won't, yeah.
So those are some of the interlinkages that we have. But one of the critical ones is that climate change itself, one of the sectors that it affects most is the health sector. With climate change, if the environment is continuously getting warmer, studies have shown that it will mean that we'll have other living things like mosquitoes, for instance, thriving. And when you have more mosquitoes, what do you have? More malaria. And if it floods, what do you get? We know of cholera. It is just the last year and the other year, the yesteryears that we had it. So when you have flooding, you are likely to have waterborne diseases also going on the increase. So you would see that there are these interlinkages that we need to learn from, be it in COVID, that if we are talking about the new normal that the president has said, that is why my colleague from Eastern Province, my Mbuya here, he had the mask, but he decided to remove it, thinking people won't notice him. But I came with mine, but I only had to take it under my karevurevu, as they call it, from where they come from. But you realize that such things are important for us. And because we have adapted, like my colleagues have said, we have adapted to wearing these, we should start adapting. So the new normal requires us to put in place a sustainable, greener development approach, which is already in our 7th National Development Plan, but unfortunately we have taken these things for granted. Thanks to COVID, we have learned. And one of the key interlinkages I'll end up with is because of the lockdown on COVID, we have learned not always to be moving aimlessly, because all the time we're in buses and all that, we are polluting the environment. So during the COVID pandemic, there was a reduction in people moving anyhow.
Less movement.
So less movement meant that there is less pollution because there are less vehicles on the road. So those are some of the lessons that we need to learn, that despite COVID being a crisis, we have already an emergent crisis that we are in, which is climate change, which affects several sectors. Among them, as mentioned in our policy, we have the energy sector. We have seen how we have suffered load shedding. We have the health sector. I've already alluded to the cholera and malaria issues that we can have. Then there is also the tourism sector. COVID hammered the tourism sector. Among the sectors that suffered, the moment tourists stopped coming, lodges were closed.
They were closed, yeah.
Tourism sector. Remember when the Victoria Falls was dry, who wanted to come and see it? Climate change showed us. So those are some of the sectors that we see. So you have the energy, the agricultural sector. All these sectors are affected. And
even the transport sector as well.
Including the transport sector. And with the transport sector, they suffered because there was less movement. But with climate change, there is an impact on infrastructure. You have seen roads, bridges being washed away when you have flash floods. What happens to the sector?
Actually, we have a road that is always being repaired, you know, the Great North Road, because of traffic. Almost every other week there is maintenance there.
Right.
So those are some of the interlinkages that are clearly there for everyone to see.
All right, it is clear. All right, so if you want to be part of the show, you can come through on the number 0977-72-8000. You can send in that question, and of course you'll get an answer right here. All right, so let me get to Ms. Nkando.
Before we add, there's one thing which is talked about when he was talking about issues of less movement. That less movement also interpreted that we reserved the misuse of resources. That is equally very critical. Okay, instead of you going to a friend to say, let's go meet and drink, you were able now to buy a packet of milk for a baby at home. I think that was a good thing.
That is if you were going to drink milk wherever you wanted to go.
No, they were going to put it on a drink I don't want to mention.
And just to add to what you said, if you look at what happened because of COVID, the government had to put up a task force to look at the food and agricultural sector. Remember, we have all these shops that were bringing things from South Africa. The moment there were lockdowns and trucks wouldn't come in, everyone was looking for where can we get these resources locally.
Where can we get Chihuahua locally?
So
Where can we get Masumbi locally?
Yes, so there was a reduction in the carbon footprint for the industry in terms of the retail and food sector, including the other sectors. So there was that reduced carbon footprint. But that gave us to think, why should we think outside and not think from within? There are things that we can do, there are things that we can grow locally instead of getting them from outside. So with that, you are able to reduce the carbon footprint by buying something that is closer from within your country and from within around. So there is the issue of having resilient food systems, having resilient economies, and that is one of the key challenges and the goals for the climate change fight.
And just one thing that has really stood out during the COVID pandemic is that we have seen that social media has really stood out as a platform that most of us young people and even adults are using to disseminate climate-related issues. Because we cannot campaign physically, we've made use of social media platforms such as Facebook, such as Twitter. So I think that's something that has really stood out for us, and probably even in the years to come, we'll make more use of this powerful weapon to send out the correct messages to people.
All right. Well said right there. So like I said, if you want to be part of the show, you can come through on the number 0977 72 8000. Send us that text message, and of course, just tell us your thoughts. All right, let me get to Mr. Jonathan Nkata. Mr. Nkata, it's clear you've met your match here.
I've seen.
All right, so Mr. Nkata, tell us something. Have you already worked out, with communities, and what challenges have you faced so far?
Well, I was born a community person, so always working with communities, and of course, referring to the COVID era, of course, it means there has been limited movement. It means it's impacted some of our programs, not just in terms of community meetings and the likes, because before you go for a community meeting, you have to kind of strategize, make plans. So you find that sometimes the whole team is not together, okay? That is a challenge, as much as we have these technologies around, but they have limitations. Sometimes you don't have issues of connection, and all that stuff. Yes, challenges are there in the sense that climate change and environmental issues are not the common product on the market. They are very, very different and very difficult to sell in the sense that, they are so unique in nature, and even when you're throwing it to the community, you have to take your time. In the issues of approaching in small groups, like the way ZCCM is trying to do, engage community groups, is one of the best ways forward. But again, when you look at the issue of an exhibition that we were supposed to have had, okay, that has we've fallen short of meeting the deadline as a result of COVID, because when you want to go out and meet people that you're supposed to engage, these people are not there, they are working from their homes. Then the other thing is that even when you write letters, you take them to these particular, or they're delivered in their offices, it will take time for an officer to come and get that particular letter that you're doing, you've written to them. Then at community level, definitely, we have not been interacting with them because of the measures that were put in by government.
All right, interesting. But of course, social media is there. So have you really been taking advantage of it and making the most out of it?
It's worked big time. I think it's a platform that we should keep on building on. And it's also time that parents and guardians should also begin coming in to start educating their children on the positive usage of the platform. And they should take it as more of an educational tool and learn a lot of things that are really affecting them, as opposed to just focusing on the entertainment aspect of the platform.
Right, great. Ms. Nkandu, tell us, how has the progress been so far?
I must say the progress has really been good. Just at the start of the project, we have reached over 20,000 youths on social media. And this is just a combined effort of all young digital activists. So now imagine just in a single month, we have had such an impact on youths. Imagine what is yet to come. So I really think social media is one great platform that you can really make use of as young people. And also just by talking to friends, neighbors, we can have a very good impact on our communities as well. So the progress has been very good, and I just hope that even with continued advocacy, with more pressure being put up, more people will talk about climate change, because we have seen people asking about alternative energy uses, especially for us as young people. Imagine when power cuts, you just want to be on Facebook and then your phone shuts down. You really feel like your life is disturbed. So for us, it's something that really, really impacts us, because we can't obviously go a week without being on Facebook. So we're coming on board because we now understand that climate change and climate advocacy is our responsibility as young youths.
All right.
And just to add to that, as said, when you look at the statistics that are around, be it in Zambia or globally, you'd realize that between 70 to 80% of our populations are young people. And when you look at statistics from Zicta, if you look at the number of people that have access to WhatsApp, Facebook and all that, the most active are the young men. But then as an institution, we sat and realized, all this time I've been talking to Mr. Nkata, even if he Bialani Bialani Mitengo, Bialani Zabu Zanu Nikalie Kone.
Mr.
Nkata is here to tell you Malala, you would find that you would be saying, will I even eat from this tree? So our approach has changed. It's about, we have talked among ourselves. We have talked to even government, among ourselves as civil society. But the reality of it remains that even if we have started feeling the impacts of climate change, the impacts will be felt more by the young people than ourselves. If you look at the Zambian, yes, the Zambian lifespan, just tell us.
I think it's improved.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time where you could not, the lifespan was about 45 years less, but now it's going up.
Yeah, but you realize that if we are to have impact.
And just that also creates a burden on the environment as the population grows.
Yeah, so you would realize that the best people to deal with when dealing with climate change and with adaptation and mitigation, we need to deal with the young people. Because these effects we are seeing now, they will live with them longer than the older people.
Yeah, definitely.
And therefore, the change agents should be the young people. Chimambeka bwanje wa myumba mwana kabauza aladadi na imwe mwachiramu. Since akamba bane mwachita I'm not referring to that.
Simon, I just wanted to say something very important because the young lady is here.
Yeah.
You see, with us when we're buying plots, we don't care which direction we're buying plots in. But it's their chance now to challenge government that we start building our buildings up, because they'll find no green by the time they start having their own children. You know, that's a big issue actually, housing. Yeah, and we seem like right now there's no policy to start spearheading such, so all these bushes will be diminishing because we're not going up. We're Hey, that's your task, your challenge, Mama.
Yes, definitely.
So you've been given a new task right there. We'll see how that one will go. All right, let me get back to you, Mr. Mwamba. May you just briefly explain about the project that you are undertaking as ZCCN. Okay, that is entitled Sustaining Climate Advocacy in the Era of COVID-19.
That is correct, and to answer that, I'll just build to what I started.
Okay.
Why we said sustaining youth activism. We realize that the youths have been talking, but the elders have not been listening. Our culture requires that Ngandwe Mfana keep quiet. But the youths have been talking about this. So we need to provide them with the space and the platform where they will be the ones to go and say, Bwana Chagwa, we heard what you said in Parliament. But what are people doing about it? It should be the youths, it should be the young people to drive the momentum, to actually say we need to change. And because of that, we came up with the sustaining youth activism amid the COVID-19. And this project is not only in Zambia. I need to mention that it is also being undertaken in about 9 other countries across the region. Okay. So it's a pilot program. And like she talked about, they spend more time on social media. So how do we utilize IT, that's information technology, the use of mobile phones, the use of TV, for instance. We know they like TV as well. In the villages, the radio is more important than TV. Yeah. So if we have to talk to them, we have to be on TV. We have to see that we reach out to those social media platforms. Actually, people laugh at me because, including Mr. Nkata, the phone that I have does not have WhatsApp anyway. So he laughs at me at in the BBC, born before computers. So I've said we need to give a platform to the young people where they can use social media, but not only use social media, but lead the process of influencing policy change. And not only policy change, but behavior change.
By the way, I wanted to add something, my brother. Yes. You know, when we're talking about the issue of social media, our rural areas in Zambia haven't been left out. That's an important point to bring on board. Yes. They are very active even in the rural areas. Yes, radio is there too, but I think it's being replaced by social media as well.
Yeah, so that's a good point. And because of that, we realize that even young people in the villages have phones and all that. We need to find ways of reaching out to them. And that we don't need to focus on these people who are going to the grave, because...
I just want to bring out something. You know, there was, I think about 6 months ago, some places in Eastern Province were beating sales of phone sales in terms of using these smartphones than some of the big towns. Yeah, that's the village setup, and you can get that information from Zamtel.
Yeah, so to go back to our issue, this project that we have has one main objective, that's to scale up. I've said to scale up because we know they are already engaging in activism, they are already using social media. So our main objective is to simply scale up and sustain young people's climate activism amid the COVID-19 challenges, to demand for climate justice. Because climate justice is a term that looks at us looking after nature, because Mother Earth has its own rights. Biodiversity has its own rights. Animals that we see have their own rights. We cannot survive without them. Yeah. So when we talk about climate justice, we are talking about creating an environment, sustaining Mother Earth in its natural form where it can support life, and not only life for humans. So that's about climate justice. And also emergency actions for national leaders as duty bearers. Because why are we saying duty bearers? Recently, in 2016, Zambia was part of the Paris Agreement, where under the UN everyone agreed to start taking action towards climate change. And therefore, Zambia has also had a climate change policy, which is unfortunately coming to an end this year.
Okay.
So the question is, how do we take the duty bearers to task? And mind you, we'll be having elections for that matter. So when we'll be having elections, we want these young people who are the majority of the voters to take those who even want to stand in all areas to say, what is it that you do about climate change? So that is one of our main objectives, that is to actually take our duty bearers to task, because they have already committed, like the president said. So we need to see to it that this is happening. So under this pilot, we have young digital activists, where Sharon is among them. For the initial pilot, we have about 15 of them from different provinces, where we now need experts. You know, he is smiling when I say experts, because Mr. Nkata wants to be expert, including in killing rats, in reducing... Oh, sorry, you call them mice. There are few rats in the town mouse and bush mouse. But what I'm trying to say is that we need to have this project that links the elders as community resource persons and other experts like ourselves who are thematic leads in certain thematic areas, like we have food security, we have health, we have water and sanitation and others, but we work with these for them to lead the process. For us, it's to facilitate and give that backup. The experience that he has in community engagement, in communication, how do we ensure that we help them to take up the mantle? If we are saying sustainable development, it is about also skills exchange. It's about knowledge exchange, but that we let these young digital activists to actually lead in undertaking these projects. So under this, we have started with 15, but we are scaling up. We want to go to about 30 or 40 or so that these people can take up that challenge and move the agenda of influencing policy for climate change in Zambia and for future generations, so that they can then have a better future.
And just in addition, besides us as young digital activists, the platform is still open for those that want to be climate change ambassadors. You can register as a member and be part of the Zambia Climate Change Network.
All right, so how do you register?
It's young people out there that are watching. You can obviously get through to Mr. Mwamba or Mr. Ali Kaunda and be a paid-up member, very affordable, and also the benefits are very vast. So we cannot just wait until the COVID passes for us to go and create awareness out there, but you can even be part of the solution now, even in the COVID-19 pandemic.
All right.
And, well, we're at a platform that supports youths. I know that Prism Africa has done a lot for youths, and I hope you continue supporting the youth and in the environmental advocacy. Yeah, and I'm glad we're here at this platform that really has its core to support the youth of the country.
All right, great. I think you were supposed to say that in conclusion, but anyway, I know you have something good to say as we'll be closing. All right, so there's a text message. This one is saying, what positive impact does COVID-19 have on ZCCN? Message coming in from Kim Zamapalo from Ibex Hill.
Well, it's a very good question. We recently published our position paper on COVID and climate change. And within that, what we have identified is the opportunities that COVID brings. Because he said, what positive impact? Because for everything that happens, don't only look on the negative. Look out for the opportunities that you can utilize. And for us, the opportunities that we have, or the positive impact that this has had, is where we need to really look at our livelihoods. We need to really look at our economy and build resilient economies. When I say resilient, it's about building communities that are able to thrive from resources that are sourced from within. That is one. Secondly, it gives us an opportunity. The government is talking about stimulus packages. For us, it's an opportunity for us to talk about stimulus packages that will influence the decisions that will look out for development projects that are more environmentally friendly. For instance, the fact that people should know that COVID came from a market where food was grown, it gives us an opportunity as ZCCN to actually undertake a campaign, which we shall be launching soon, where we are talking about food and healthy food and climate justice. Because we are having diseases that are coming from unhealthy food systems. So for us, the positive impact is that we are now rethinking of having healthy and resilient, sustainable food systems. Also, in South Africa.
All right.
And one other thing
Mr.
on the
Nkata,
positive.
in conclusion,
Yeah, I just wanted to
so
add-
just in a minute, so make sure that you conclude. Say whatever you want to say, but in a minute.
In a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, good one. One other positive aspect is the strengthening of the social media in terms of advocacy. I think that was one of the positives that has come out from this particular era. And what I can simply say, let's rally to support programs that are dealing with climate change and the environment. It's our duty as a nation, as citizens, as communities to respond so that we are better placed for the future events.
All right, great. Let me get to Ms. Nkando in conclusion.
So just add on to what my two colleagues have said, I think one other positive aspect that has really come out is that as a platform we've had a wider reach, because as YDAs we are representing all the provinces in Zambia. And I think that is very important because each province is faced with different issues. For example, there are floods, there are droughts in the southern province, there are different climate change issues in the northern part of Zambia. So as a young person representing a particular province, you're able to come up with key messages that are appropriate or specific for that province. So I think for me that's very important because now we've had a wider reach.
All right, great. Mr. Mwamba, in conclusion.
In conclusion, I'm only calling upon all young people to join this movement of young climate activists. It's open, it's not only the 15, those are digital climate activists, but we are calling on all other young people to join this movement. They can go to our website, which is zambiaclimatechange.org.com, and then we also have the Facebook page. They can just look for Zambia Climate Change Network, and then they can get in touch with us by liking the page and then messaging us through that page. But they can also get in touch. For instance, my number is very simple, unless there are people like Mr. Nkata who can forget. It's 0976 900, that's 900 567. 0976 900 567. And lastly, Zambia Climate Change Network, together with other partners, this Friday we are having a Zambia National Food Festival. We actually look at promoting indigenous foods in South Africa. So it will be at Greenfield Park near Cheetah Lodge, just behind Manda Hill, this Friday. So it's being organized together with Participatory Ecological Land Use Management, PELAM Zambia, Zambia Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity Conservation, Caritas Zambia, which is the Catholic development organization. So with that and other partners that we have. So because of COVID, I think we are reserving people to come in to around only 150. Okay. But we are encouraging people to actually look out for the information that will be put on the websites of Zambia Climate Change Network and our other partners. So we look forward if people can come in, pass through, get to see the indigenous foods that we have, and then we'll be able to promote more resilient food systems. That's my concluding remarks. Nimavutika mkakamata 1 minute.
Yeah, so it's okay. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much, for coming to the studios, and of course, just educating a lot of people about, climate and climate change, and of course, in connection with COVID-19. So I'm sure we'll be seeing you soon again.
We are available every time you need us, and would love to bring more of the young people, so that they can, I think we can negotiate and agree. We can even do a program where the presenter is younger than you, and those responding are younger, where we can just talk about young people and the environment and climate change. I think we can see how we can work around that so that we can start moving forward, including a children's program.
Okay, enough. All right, so thank you very much. So it has been the special, climate change program right here on Prism Africa. So keep it right here on Prism Africa, because this is where good things are happening. Until we come back next time, it has been yours truly, Cuthbert Piri, and of course, keep it right here on Prism Africa. We're out.